Hi everyone, thanks for checking out the podcast Buzz About Golf. Steve Buzza here, partner in crime.
Hi everyone, Megan Buzza.
So today's episode, I was asked this question. So this is a question from someone that's been watching. How do you feel, or what's the difference between teaching elite versus non-elite?
That's a good question.
And I know there's a lot of coaches that really thrive in one or the other. I also do know some coaches prefer one or the other. I know some coaches that really enjoy coaching one of them and then hate teaching the other.
Absolutely, yeah.
So for me, elite versus non-elite, you kind of have to define that first.
And yeah, that's the first thing that came to my mind, is that within each realm of the individuals, so it could be a junior golf versus women's golf or collegiate golf, right? Within that, there's different levels, there's different layers. So the definition of this is essential. Yeah. There's different approaches just amongst like working with different age groups.
It's different age groups, but sometimes I kind of like, if we use this definition from a growth mindset perspective, so like Carol Dweck's work, one of the things that she says, I'm pretty sure it's in her book, Growth Mindset, when you've got a young kid, one of the biggest predictors of if they continue doing the sport is simply asking them, in 10 years' time, do you think you'll be still doing this? A kid that kind of tends to make it up, they'll go, yeah, definitely. Another kid who might be just as talented, they'll go, or maybe I'll be doing something else. So can you see, for me, elite versus non-elite, sometimes it's about what the player or what the person desires to achieve just as much as their kind of ability. Or you could say it another way around. You could have someone with a lot of talent, a lot of ability, but not really have the desire to play well or to do well.
Yeah.
So you see, so on paper they have all of the traits of an elite person, but from a mindset perspective, they're anything but.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. It kind of makes me think of, those that are destined to do it. They have it really in their, like, kind of locked in their game plan, and then others, like you're saying, that just kind of, it's, even if you can get them to hang around and keep playing, is huge.
Yeah, correct. I've seen, we've seen it. I'll give you a great example. My last job in England, I was a high performance coach to the University of Exeter. So I loved my time there. Gave me a chance to not only teach elite players, really good players, but I was still quite young as a coach, so I kind of hadn't earned the right yet to be coaching full time. So if you really want to get good at coaching, you need to put hours in. And that gave me the opportunity, and it gave me the opportunity to have structure in place. So when you talk about high performance, we had me as kind of the out and out golf coach, but then we had physios, we had strength and conditioners. The
full team.
You had the full
tour experience.
Yeah, we had all of that in place. So it massively helped me, the conversations I had with others, we all had a collective goal. We got to UK number 1, so we all had that goal. But what was interesting, I had a few instances just before I left, and at face value, one player in particular who, I love to death as an individual, as a human being, one of my favorites. But he wasn't of a high performance mindset.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have the desire to be a pro. He didn't have the desire to, play in a British amateur, in a big event. He was just very good at golf, really enjoyed golf. but his aim was certainly in areas outside of golf.
Yeah.
So I removed him, and my point is coming up. I removed him, and at face value, it looked like the golf pro had just got rid of someone. And you talk about favorites. You go, like, he was one of my favorites. He probably not watching this, but he, if you asked him, he would say, "Oh no, Steve, Steve didn't like me," and it,
yeah, because it comes off as you were against him.
Couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah.
He was starting to behave in a manner which was pulling us away from. We went to one thing. If you're elite or you're trying to have a high performance mindset, you have to put structures in place, and you have to live by the structures.
Yeah.
And he certainly was not living by the structures. He was warned, and then he started pushing back rather than. And again, it's not even about falling in line. It's the team had come up with the plan. What was acceptable, what was unacceptable. He had decided it didn't fit in with his lifestyle. But anyway, after kicking him off, I actually went to the sports psychologist, and I said, "Look, there's a bit of unrest in the team. Am I the problem?" Because it's that classic, if everybody is a problem, there's probably one problem. So I went to the sports psychologist and I said, "Hey, can I just talk to you? I want to talk you through like what's been happening in the last few months, and I want to just kind of clarify, if I am the problem, what do I need to do to alter it, or what's going on? We need to get to the bottom of this." After chatting with him for not very long, he said, "Steve, you're running a high performance environment with a number of athletes that aren't high performance."
Well, that's a good point.
So you see, I've got 15 in the team, and 15 of them weren't of that high performance mindset. Mm-hmm. Or if we come back and use our terminology, I had 15 really, really good players, but they weren't all elite.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And so he just told you that you weren't crazy.
No, he said that straight. He said that straight up, and when you look back, and I ended up leaving the role. I went off to work for David Ledbetter the following year, so that was kind of my last season. But he was recommending I started to make the team smaller.
Yeah.
So if I had stayed, I would have just had to rebrand what I expected from my performance kids, and I almost would have needed. I had my performance squad, and then I had more of my club. If you think of college, university, then I had my club players. Again, all of the kids contributed to the world UK number one status. All of them across, there were 5 teams. All of them are very, very good players. Yeah. I would have almost needed to put a second band. So maybe my first team, which was 6, so it was 6, I almost would have just had 6 high performance players. Oh. And then I would have had an additional 6 with second team.
And I feel like you see that a lot, especially with kind of that age. It's before the tour level, right? So, because everyone, they get by with talent for such a good portion of it, and then all of a sudden, let's say it's distance, like you're hitting it so much farther than everyone else, and then all of a sudden there's that point where everyone catches up to you, and then what's Absolutely. That next difference maker? So I think a lot of people, because of the fact that talent can get you really far, lack that other piece, which is what does it take to be a high performance player and an elite player versus someone that's just getting by off of that talent.
And it was interesting. So Rory made a comment a few weeks ago. He's like trying to disassociate between Rory the golfer versus Rory the person. Because he basically said that, and I certainly used to do this. If I had a bad golf round, it didn't feel like I was bad at golf. It felt I was a bad human being. Yikes. And you could argue, you see how that's intertwined. So that's an issue that you get with an elite player. A non-elite player, don't get me wrong, your bad round might annoy you, but it doesn't get into the core as much as that. So something that I like to say about an elite player versus a non-elite. So I love teaching both, like genuinely, hand on heart.
No, yeah, I know you.
I won't touch it because I don't want to touch the mic, but hand on heart. It's two very different situations. So with a non-elite player, so let's say a club golfer, what I enjoy is the chatting between the two of you. It's a far more light-hearted environment. So it's fun. It's fun to be around that person. That person is you'll get it where you feel like if they're having like a rough week at work, you can give them that relief. You can give them that hour where they're just like, oh man, this is fun.
Yeah.
So can you see? So you're plugging in, and you do genuinely feel like you can change someone's day. The other thing with a club golfer is when you talk about turning the ship and about how it's really hard. Sometimes with a club golfer, for whatever reason, you can flip. I was going to say flip that bitch, but you can turn it like a speedboat.
Please don't. Okay.
But can you see what I'm saying? So people are going.
You can make a huge difference.
So, and with that comes from a beaming smile, relief, excitement. So you get to receive that from them and see it on them.
Yeah, definitely.
So that for me is the such exciting thing. The other thing, and you could say this is for both. I very much believe if there's an issue with communication, it's the person trying to communicate. Mm-hmm. So it gives you an opportunity if things aren't going particularly well. You get to try different things and try different ways to get your point across. If you're a coach in any domain, if you leave and you go, man, that person doesn't listen, you go, look, you probably didn't get any rapport with them. If you don't have a rapport with someone, they're not going to listen to you.
Yeah, they don't trust you.
They don't trust you. Probably the way you said it. So a lot of the time we deliver information on how we like to receive it. Mm-hmm. It's a bit like those love language. If you've heard of love languages, definitely. People tend to, give it out how they want to receive it, and some people need it in a different form. Yeah. Or it's slightly tweaked. So when you're
even just different learning styles, audio, visual,
correct,
kinesthetic.
So you get all of that. So in a club golfer, you have the freedom to be quite loose in how you go to get to the answer. Mm-hmm. So, there's an excitement to that. With the elite player, so the elite player, you'll never, or very, very rarely, were they going to go, oh my gosh, I had never known that, or I had never hit a shot like that. Yeah. Because the level is up here, you're talking about the 1% and 2%. Mm-hmm. So with the 1% and 2%, there comes out and out pressure to not mess them up.
Yeah, it's understanding what can you change.
Yes.
That, like the little things, not like huge changes like you
Correct.
would for a club player.
And there's a pressure because you go, oh, if I say that, I'll give you this example. I had my elite squad with me. I'm watching the player. This is 20 minutes before they're teeing it off, and they're hitting it like a dog, hitting it real bad, and you're standing there behind them as a coach, and you go, what do I say, or do I say anything? If I say something and they play bad, it now becomes my fault. So it's
when they're already terrible.
So it's easier for me. It's easier for me not to say anything.
Yeah.
But if I'm choosing that, why am I standing here? So can you see there's that pressure? It's again in football, soccer, Megan. The coach didn't know when to make the substitutions, and you go, well, it's not like it passed him, he was blind to it, but sometimes it's hard to go, look, I'm got to make this change. It's easier to sit back. You then go, oh, if I do need to intervene, what do I say? I'm trying to run the scenarios, and I'm going, if I let them go out the way they are, can they shoot a score that's acceptable enough that if we work on it this evening, we can do better at day 2, make the cut.
Mm-hmm.
Are they not doing that? They're a lamb to the slaughter if I send them out in that case. I remember I had one player, and I'm sitting there, and he, like I said, he's really struggling. And I just said, hey, like with the wind today, I would just visualize some low cuts. Like just hit some low cuts. And, what I was seeing is like his full swing, it looked like he could hit it anywhere.
So you're trying to get him to eliminate one side?
Yeah, so I'm basically trying to give him a strategy that's a little safer without saying, hey man, you're really hitting it bad today. And it's trying to go, oh look, with the wind, like, I'm watching the driver. I'm like the first is a par 5. This instance actually it was a par 5. I go, hey look, I don't think you can get up to the green in 2. So why don't we hit 3 with up the left? And because you can't come out and say, man, I don't think you can find the planet with your driver, so let's not do that. So you see, there's that, but can you see that in that moment it's extremely stressful?
Yeah.
The other thing, elite versus non-elite, is you can be a bit more of a showman with the non-elite. It can be a bit more like we've done golf schools together. It's really fun. It's vibrant. We're bouncing off each other. Ideas are flying around. That doesn't work as well in the elite environment. But you have to be able to still give them the information and have them be able to take it from you. Sometimes you have to make it almost seem like their idea, so it's a bit more discovery. But I hear this one a lot. So when Jordan Spieth's struggling, they go, oh, well, if I had an hour with Jordan Spieth, I would sort that. And you go, hey, you're very much overestimating your skills as a coach. Mm-hmm. But second of all, and more importantly, he ain't going to listen to you.
Yeah.
It's gonna.
That's a
you
really
need
point.
to build rapport.
Yeah.
So an elite player, one of the traits of an elite player is they don't tend to listen to you because that's what made them an elite player. If they take every piece of information from Tom, Dick, and Harry, it becomes too overwhelming. So there's that level of building rapport. So they'll listen, but then you can't expect the ego boost of them going, oh my God, Steve, or oh my God, Megan, I knew you were the best. And sometimes as an individual, you kind of crave that a bit. Yeah. Oh, you're the best coach I've ever seen.
But people totally do miss that
yes.
key of the rapport and building that trust.
100%. And I've been extremely fortunate. Like when I did NLP, I'm a NLP master practitioner, neural linguistic programming. I was struggling to get NLP out, but then I worked okay with neural linguistic programming. But anyway, so that's kind of mindset training, and it's understanding when I'm trying to implement some of those ideas into my player to make them feel better. If it works, they shouldn't really notice that I did much. Yeah. So if they're like, man, I feel like a different person, we're trying to pull them in line with their optimal. And when you're in line with your optimal, you feel pretty good and you feel centered and where you should be. So when you do your job really, really well, they don't notice that you did really, really well. And if you think it's about you, and again, it just straight up doesn't work.
Yeah. Okay, so will you summarize your points on an elite player? Like maybe your top 5 things. It's like obviously there's more mental game involved, more planning and preparation. The keys of the routine have to just be spot on. But technique wise, it's not like you're not reinventing the wheel. You're pretty much working with what they have, just changing maybe the biomechanics of it, right?
Let's use this example for you. So you're an aim point instructor.
Okay.
So you have taught. Which
I am. Yes. Okay.
You're like, oh yeah, I am. Yeah. So you have done those sessions with elite players. Mm-hmm. We a couple that are on the LPGA at the minute. that you helped, especially when they were younger. So you got LPGA players, and then you have a club golfer that might be completely new to golf, and they're like, look, if this is one of the first things I learn, it might give me a head up on the competition. The way you structure it, like how different is it?
Yeah, I mean, terminology is a big difference, obviously.
Okay.
Just knowing how, like, surface level versus being able to kind of dive deeper into the terminology. Because that's one thing in our game can just be so confusing for a new golfer. Is some
Absolutely.
of the things that we call different terms.
So terminology is a huge one for me. But I've worked with some really elite players that, you know, the more depth you go into terminology, it switches them off.
Yeah.
So sometimes that can be a personality thing as well. But
and then like process and objectives. Objectives are huge. Understanding like what is an acceptable. You know, for a lot of beginners, you have to understand like what is good, what's a good versus a bad one. So
I totally agree with that. I had a lesson, and I hadn't been a coach for very long. So I was kind of straight out of college. And I'm giving this gentleman a lesson at Clifton Hill. So Clifton Hill, home of golf in Exeter, Devon, England.
Well, Crossfield was out of there too.
Crossfield was
there.
there.
A lot of talent has come out of Clifton Hill, I've got to say.
This is a very small sample size, but I can only assume this is correct. 60% distance range balls must be the thing that takes you to the next level.
There you go. You heard it here first.
Has to be. Clifton. I can't remember why I mentioned Clifton Hill.
So you were saying Clifton Hill,
the home of golf. Oh, so I was given very new to coaching.
He's back.
I'm giving this guy a lesson, and when I first turned pro, I'd done my sports science degree, so I had a ton of science, which made me think that I was ready to be like the top dog. But I had zero coaching. Both in terms of actual technical application to the golf swing, but also like how to interact with people. Yeah. But anyway, I remember vividly, and this is to your point, having this lesson. I thought it was going terribly. I thought it was going really, really bad, and it was like, and I'm getting nervous, and anyway, at Clifton Hill we used to have the base. So you'd walk out the door, and he walks out the door, and he looks back, and he goes, "Steve, that's the best I've ever hit it."
Oh.
So can you see, like, to your point, I hadn't established where he was.
Objectives,
and one of the hard things when you first turn pro is you tend to play with your friends, and your friends are not as good as you. For all my friends watching, they're watching like, you never beat me once. But so you tend to be in that same circle of mindset and kind of skill level. So then when you turn pro, you go back into the actual different areas of golf, different, so in terms of objectives, you go, actually a 28 index doesn't think, feel, or have the same objectives to have a successful day as I do. And if you can't appreciate that, all of a sudden it gets a pretty, the experience just isn't anywhere near as good. And I think that's why, I said like elite versus non-elite. There are some coaches out there that really, won't name people, but, I know a few that really like incredible with tour pros, and they don't really have the patience for like the beginner.
Yeah, not everyone is the right student for them though, right?
No, absolutely.
It's understanding your strengths and what, because ultimately, if someone doesn't want to work with a student in whatever category, it just means that they're probably not the right fit anyways, finding the right, in our business, the niche that you should be in and the type of client. And we're just really lucky. We like to work with a lot of people. So and I think it's a part of the challenge though. And like you said, the communication end of it.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not me judging. Like some people really specialize in a certain area. Again, like I've never had the fortune to be traveling on tour the whole year, so it's easy for me to say, oh, then they're not, dealing with the beginners that I deal with. And you go, well, hang on a minute, like I said, with the elite, the stresses that come with it.
Yeah, for sure.
You
Oh my
know-
goodness. Everyone wants to be a tour coach, but I guarantee you, if you interview a tour coach, there's a lot of stress
Oh, absolutely.
on that breakup situation.
Absolutely, and like with the elite player as well, like more times than not, you end up getting the bin. You know, I was working with a kid who was he was going.
Something's got to change, right?
Yeah.
Something.
Or you saw Matt Fitzpatrick, caddy, who, they won the U.S. Open. His name is completely gone. Used to be with Westwood and Seve.
Oh, I can't think of it. I'm sorry.
It's gone. Comment down below.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing. I wish I hadn't used this as an example now. But he said, look, he's not playing very well. Someone's got to go. It's either the caddy or the
coach.
Or the coach.
Yeah.
I had a player who was trying to get on Corn Ferry qualifying. It didn't go well. Goes in a different direction. Sometimes gets awkward, so they don't let you know. So you have reached out one day. Hey, how's it going? And, oh man, I'm seeing someone.
I think ultimately, you want you as the coach, right? The coach wants the player to do well. The caddy wants the player to do well.
100%.
It's just it's a relationship. At the end of the day, it's a breakup. It
is kind of funny. People do get really weird, don't they?
Yeah.
And you're like, I had one. So when I was teenager and turning pro, I wanted to see someone else, but my coach that I'd had for a few years, and it kind of got a bit stale. Plus, I wasn't really seeing him, so that's the weird one. So it had nothing to do with him. I needed kind of a new way. We'd gone as far as we could, and I kind of had this massive period where I just didn't see anyone because I didn't really want to see him, and I didn't really want to see someone else and upset him. And anyway, I said, hey, I think I might need to see someone else, and he was so positive because he just genuinely wanted me to play well.
Yeah.
We create these things in our...
It is interesting. Comment on that one, if you will, because I know for me, if I feel like I'm not improving, I really don't care. I'll get my hair cut from different people or whatever, it's not like I'm worried about that person's, you're my coach, so you're in the hot seat here. If I'm not playing well into you, I'm definitely going to someone else.
It's been awkward. Why was there no season 3 of Buzz About Golf? Megan went to see someone else. I've never I genuinely feel like no one has to have a lesson with you. So if someone has another, it's not like, oh, why are they now? It's like somebody spent, whether it's financial or just time. We don't have an infinite amount of time. If they were prepared to come and see you, I try to say, look, I appreciate the time we spent and understand we didn't have to do any of that, rather than getting freaked out that.
Yeah, that's where I get a little lost, is when people worry about hurting our feelings, and then they just act weird around you, and you're like, okay, well,
it's
we
weird.
can still be friends.
But it can be. We used to work with a coach, didn't we? And he would drive and he would park his car and look at you the whole lesson while you were giving his student that he had seen once 4 years ago. Stand and look at you.
Yeah. Like, I don't need that energy.
He was a strange duck.
I'm glad that
he was a strange duck.
I'm glad that we don't have to
but in terms of elite versus non-elite, the actual structure of the lesson isn't that different.
Yeah.
A lot of the time with an elite player, I have to work less hard.
Many times the what do you call them? The non-elite, the club golfer, we'll call it, right? Those players just need to do a little bit more of what the elite players are doing, right? They need to manage it a little bit more.
Correct.
And then sometimes those elite players need a bit more of what the club golfers are doing.
So that's so true. And I always say with golf, you never reach your expectations because they keep going up and up.
Yeah.
So golf more so. You heard the phrase. So you're doing things now that you said 2 years ago. So you've made goals and completed goals now that 2 years ago you said if you completed they would
You'd
make
be
you happy.
so happy, and then you're not when
Yes.
you get there. That's why we do video, right? To see, like, hey, this is what you used to be doing. People just start to expect what that new goal is when it's like, hey, you would have been thrilled
Yes.
when we started if I told you you'd be doing this.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I had someone the other day. So he was hitting it 250 in the air, rolling to 275. And when we started, he was hitting it 220 in the air.
Oh, dang.
You know,
Wow. I'm going to come get a driver
but
lesson.
what was fascinating is he was doing 250 and 275, and he mentioned it 3 times. He was really annoyed with his club head speed.
Oh, wow.
It was like 105.
Yeah.
He said, I can't believe it. I'm stronger than it. He couldn't believe it. And I'm like, dude, like
you've improved that much, and you're not seeing
you're up, yeah.
with the blinders. But
yeah, and sometimes
I think that's back to that expectations, though, isn't it? It's back to the realistic and knowing what is acceptable. Some people are just tough on that.
I kind of like what you just said there. I think this is kind of a nice place to finish this. So, the elite player and the non-elite, or we could say the club golfer and the tour pro. Mm-hmm. The club golfer, if they want to play their best golf, they need to look up at the tour pro and say, what do they do that I don't? And half of the time it's, they practice, they eat well, they got systems, they warm up, they don't turn up 2 minutes before their tee time. So you have to look.
The purposefulness of the tour player, yes.
You look and then you go, I don't need to be a tour pro, but my goal is in that direction. So if I at least pull some of the stuff they do, it will pull me towards my goal.
Yes.
The tour pro sometimes needs to look back at the club golfer.
Why do I like playing golf? Why am I here?
Why?
Yeah.
Why do I like it? Why do I go? I don't need to. What makes me good?
Yeah.
What I think with the elite players, sometimes we get so fixated. Because I'm an elite player. We, as in the elite players, we get so fixated on how we can be better or how this person can do something that I can't. Why does he hit it further? Why does he hold more putts?
Yeah.
Why?
The comparison.
Yeah. So you compare and you need to take that, look back in the other direction, go, when I play well, how do I feel? What do I do well when I'm playing well?
Yeah.
So it's far more looking back the other way and going, look, where can I be in a place, both physically, mentally, and mechanically, where I am really good. I don't have to be able to shoot every shot. I loved Harbour Town is just finished, or kind of they're onto the back nine. Craig Parry, do you remember he was a little stocky Australian? Johnny Miller in the booth said he's got the swing of a 28 handicap or something. But he was kind of this stocky short guy that kind of swung a bit like over the top. But he hit this fade. And like he won at Harbour Town. And was on tour. Yeah. So can you see, if he's looking out at Rory McIlroy and going, why can't I move my hips twice the speed of the average tour pro? Why can't, look at Ernie Els. Why can't my hands be high? Why aren't people calling me, like, say I've got the smoothest swing in golf? Can you see, you have to,
that comparison.
You look back you look back the other way and you go, hey, I'm really good at just doing this. Mm-hmm. And we've all played match play against someone like that. When on the first tee, you're like, my assets are so much better than their assets, but they utilize their assets. And I could say, again, elite versus non-elite. Elite, they extract their assets. So their scoring is always, let's shoot 2 shots less than I should have. Whereas down at the non-elite level, usually they'll shoot a couple shots more. I'm very much of the belief that most people that come to me at a non-elite level already have 90% of the tools to shoot their goal. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
And usually they have it within them.
Getting out of their own way.
Yes. And usually they have it within them to actually shoot and achieve goals that are way beyond what they would be happy with.
Yeah.
So you see, it's all about, let's extract it. Go, look, I'll extract it by, not turning up a minute before my tea time. Because it gets you racing, So you go, look, I'm gonna do that. But yeah, so the non-elite needs to look at what the elite is doing and going, hey, I need to. My goals aren't their goals, but my goals are in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
The elite player sometimes needs to take a step back. So the content we give it's usually less complex.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have more available, and they don't need you don't impress someone with fancy words or, look, this is the vector, and it's like, look, hey, you're doing great, just maybe see it come out a bit lower.
Yeah, it's a bit more simple, but getting them to just be able to hold up under pressure.
Yes. So the elite, you kind of look back at the non-elite. Why do I enjoy it? What allows me to play great golf? And then with both sets, it's like I have to build the rapport. Mm-hmm. So when I'm giving information, the person, they'll hear it. Yeah. And I think that gets missed.
Yeah, that part is way underrated.
Absolutely. So, elite versus non-elite, and we can go into more details of like I was going to use the word minutia. Is that a word?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that works for this.
We could go more into the minutia. Why do I choose that one? We can go more into things that we do, and actually like to give you some more insight in how you can maybe apply some of this. But like as an overview, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a coach, first you need to have someone that like they want to work with you and on a more
because there's an investment from the coach as well, right? You're investing in their, are they truly invested in you getting better?
I like to, you'll see my team buzzman thing, that the concept of the team is you need somebody at least paddling. So if the coach doesn't want to be there, they just won't paddle. If you got the wrong person, they'll paddle in the other direction and you'll go around in circles.
Oh man.
So you need someone that's going to paddle in the same direction. The rapport is really important.
Yeah. And
then it genuinely upsets me when I don't feel like a lesson went well.
Yeah.
And you could argue we're elite coaches. And it bloody upsets me.
You can argue.
Yeah, well,
we are elite coaches.
Yeah, I didn't want to be the one. It's hard when it's like, so I'm a good guy. It don't work if you're the one who says it. I'll say it to you.
You're an extraordinary.
I'll say it to you and you say it to me. You go first.
You're an extraordinary.
Thank you. Anyway, so that's where we're gonna. Megan, you're an incredible coach. We're lucky that our specialities are, not on top of each other. They complement. So we puzzle together really well. I think that's why our golf schools work really nicely. But you have to have someone paddle in the right direction, want to be there, and generally,
understand the big picture. Too.
Yeah, and understand what you want, and be as upset as you. That's what if you don't make it.
Yeah.
And sure. I'll finish on that. I will always be as upset as you if you don't get there. If you happen not to be that upset, I won't be as upset.
Yeah.
But
so you meet on the level of commitment.
Yeah. But there we go, and it's a different pressure, but it's not a completely different It doesn't feel like, I have to put this hat on and this hat on.
That was a great question, though.
It's a great question.
I'd love to see more questions like that.
Yes.
Put them in the comments down below.
Why are you an elite coach? Because I said so. As always, stay happy.
Stay safe.
I hope to catch you soon. Get those comments down, like and subscribe.
See you next time.
Next week. I would say it will be less rambling, but that would be a lie.